Hi, welcome to week 16 of campaign planning. And this week we're looking at evaluating ideas. Now, we're going to do this in a practical way rather than there being a lot of theory, because you now need to start thinking about the ideas that you're developing for your particular assignment briefs, so that we can then gradually tease out some of the things that you might actually be able to take forward and develop to produce into the final campaigns. That process of developing those ideas is then the bit that's going to take some time and polishing, and then thinking about how you're going to write up your creative journey, the kinds of things you're going to include, and in particular, how you're going to integrate theory with that process. So there will be quite a long time in which we will go over and review and evaluate the ideas that you put forward. So the first thing I'd actually want you to do is simply to pause the video and go back into the weekly folder for this week. And I've reposted the Martini brief that we were looking at last time. And I just want you to quickly refamiliarize yourself with that particular brief. Once you've done that, you will then find that there are 3 examples of student responses to that particular brief. Now, they're listed as Martini A, Martini B, and Martini D because there was a slight issue with Martini C. And what I want you to do is evaluate those pieces of work in terms of how well you think they answer the brief. Okay, and I want you to write a couple of sentences for your own benefit as much as anything, but we are going to discuss these in the seminar as to what order you would put them in, which one you thought was the best, which one you thought was least bad, which one was in the middle. And I want you to say what were the things that made you put the brief that you felt was best above the other 2. So you're actually going to be carrying out some evaluation of those. Now, there is also a folder which I just need to scroll down to double check what it was called, which is called Martini Feedback. Within this, you will find there is reference to the feedback that was given to the Martini A submission, the B submission, and the D submission. And what I would like you to do is, after you have evaluated the assignments, and I want you to pay very close attention to how well you think they have answered the brief, and then secondly, how creative and interesting you think those answers are, because those are 2 of the main things that we're going to be looking at. Your answer could be relatively uninspiring, but if it meets the brief, then that's going to be okay. But equally, you can produce an amazing piece of work that actually doesn't do as well as perhaps you were hoping, simply because it's too far removed from the brief. And one of the things that we need to negotiate between the 2 of us is exactly what aspects of the brief you're focusing on. Some of the briefs are a little bit unwieldy and very large in terms of the different things that they want you to cover. And if you try and cover all of them, then there's a very good chance that what you're not going to do is produce something which is neat and punchy and really achieves that kind of creative intensity. So those are the things that we need to talk about in terms of addressing the brief, which is the other reason why it's really important that you have now chosen your brief. The longer you lead it, the harder it is going to be to actually do any of this, and the worse you're likely to perform in the assessment itself. Now, you can cheat, you can look at the Martini feedback before you undertake your evaluations, but that's not going to help you, because you have to be able to evaluate your own work and understand the kind of things you're applying. You'll then be able to talk to me about how you have evaluated the work, and I will be able to negotiate and discuss with you whether or not those things that you're looking at are the same things that I'll actually be using when it comes to judging the final work. Now, in the early stages, the process is a collaborative one, so I'm going to point you in what I think is the right direction to try and get you the best marks possible. After you've done those evaluations and you've looked at the feedback, I then want you to focus on the activity which is included in the study guide, and we mentioned at the end of last week. So really by now you actually should have done this, which was to think about the brainstorming, the mood boards, the various other idea generating techniques that you're supposed to have been applying to your brief, to come up with a list of, maybe 20 to 30 ideas. And I want you to choose 10 of those ideas and try and actually write them out as if they were a pitch in one sentence. So ideally, when everyone comes to the seminar, everyone should have a list of 10 ideas which they can present in a single sentence, which we can then look at and talk about. And one of the things I'm hoping to do is to be able to break you into groups where people who are looking at the same briefs can actually share their ideas and talk about them, because those initial ideas are really about pointing you in the direction of places you can go to develop ideas. So, nobody's going to steal your idea, because there's a lot of development that needs to take place. And what you might find is that you can amalgamate two ideas or somebody else's idea, whilst their idea might not be the thing that you actually want to do. It will give you a further idea of something else actually that you can do and then develop. And then the last part is the creative consideration. So for the 10 ideas that you choose, and again, this shouldn't actually take you very long, and you don't specifically need to be able to share this in the session itself, but it may help you either when it comes to writing the single sentence, or in some respects in terms of explaining those, particularly if we're going to have either a one-to-one meeting, or if you're going to send me some information via email that I can have a look at. So you need to find an image that will go with each of the 10 ideas that you've written a single sentence for. Now, apologies for the fact that this material is going up a little bit later than I would have liked. As most of you are probably aware, there's a couple of deadlines coming up tomorrow, and I have spent quite a lot of time this week outside of the teaching, prep, and administration that I have to do, actually trying to help students, answering their questions about the assignments, responding to those, and also dealing with a number of extension requests. So I'm sorry that this one is a little bit late, but actually there's just a number of practical tasks that you need to do. And if you can do those in advance of the seminar, then it will certainly make the first part of the seminar a lot more helpful to you next week. Okay, good luck with that. Hope you're all doing well in terms of the assignments. Perhaps many of you have already submitted them, or certainly hopefully all of you will have submitted them by the time you look at this material. And I hope you're able to spend a little bit of time relaxing over the weekend. Okay, I'll see you next week.